And welcome to The Rest is Football with Micah Richards, me, Gary Lineker, and Alan Shearer in the back of a car. He's leaving St James's Park after an impressive victory. So I suspect, Alan, you're in a good mood.
I'm in a great mood, yeah. It's been a really good day. Yeah, Newcastle were much the better team, and Man United, particularly second half, they couldn't live with the intensity, with the pace and the power of Newcastle, and they kept on insisting, playing out from the back. And that sort of suited Newcastle down to the ground, and they punished them, and they really were much the better team, particularly second half, and deserved the 3 points. Once they got the second one, it was a matter of how many they were going to get.
You were there working, weren't you, with Premier League Productions?
I was there with Premier League Television, yeah, PLP. I'm sat with Mr. Steve Bauer here, who's on my
there he is, Steve.
side.
How are we?
Steve was presenting today, did a very good job of it. Me, David Ginola, and Nicky Butt. So it's it was a really the atmosphere was brilliant, as you can imagine. It's a good place to be playing your football at the minute, St James's Park. I promise you that.
Oh, look, he's all chirpy.
Look, he's all giddy, isn't it? It's a good place to play your football in St James's Park. Who were the standouts for you, Al? I thought Harvey Barnes was excellent.
Obviously, Harvey Barnes was superb. I thought Tonali in the midfield, Bruno was running the show. The midfield was just too strong for Man United's midfield, and they had too much pace for them at the back. And it was disappointing actually to go in 1-1 at half time. Man United had a couple of chances, took one of them, but I thought Newcastle would have been disappointed because with the chances they created to only have had one goal on the back of that, But there were plenty of good performances, but the standout, without doubt, was Harvey Barnes.
One of our own, Alan. One of our own. Leicester.
that sort of sums, or he does, Newcastle up at the minute in terms of he couldn't get in, whether it was injury or whether it was form when Anthony Gordon was playing. Anthony Gordon goes out, he comes in, he scores, he does really well. And he said after the game, I listened to his interview, he's really enjoying his football, and he's in a good place as we speak. So long may that continue. They've got options all over the park, Newcastle. It's looking very healthy.
Talk to me about Tino Livramento. He is outstanding.
He's good, eh?
He's really good. After his injury problems and he's sort of found his way. And I know he prefers to play right back. At left back, coming on his right foot, I just thought he was great again.
Yeah, you're right. Playing left back, he's aggressive, isn't he? He's really quick. 1v1. There's not many that sort of go past him, And the way he went past Dallo, I think it was for Barnes's goal, the second goal. It was the way he went past him and whipped that ball in. It was brilliant. I mean, he did something similar at Leicester as well, didn't he? Where he put a great ball in as well. So he's in a really, really good place as well, as are a lot of Newcastle players.
Win your game in hand, Alan. I think that puts you in third place and looking really good for a Champions League spot.
Yeah, really, really good. As you can imagine, there's a real good feel-good factor around Newcastle and the players are feeding off the energy that the crowd are giving them. They really are responding to all of that. And they win the game in hand, which is Wednesday against Palace. Then and I think even if they draw, they still go into third position. So yeah, it really is a happy place at this moment in time.
Can I ask you about Amorim, Al? Obviously, you was at the game and you could probably see a lot more than we can see, on the TV. What's his body language like now? Because he looks like a defeated man to me.
Well, their season isn't today playing at St James's Park in the Premier League. Their Premier League season has been a disaster. It's basically over that. Their season is Thursday, and he made a few changes today. What I find interesting is as we know, there's a fascination in our Premier League now, or in football, that you have to play out from the back. And they're basically not very good at playing out from the back. And they've got a goalkeeper who's not very good at playing out from the back. Yet they insist on doing it. And that when you're doing that at St James's Park, with Newcastle's press and how much energy they've got and how strong they are, if you're not very good at it, then Newcastle are going to pick you up and they're going to identify a weakness. And that's exactly what they did, particularly second half. The way they pressed, the way they forced them into errors. But it just kept on doing it. And I'm thinking to myself, sometimes sometimes a manager's job is to make players better and the team better. I think he's asking a lot of those Man United players to do something they can't do because they're not very good at playing out from the back.
Is that bigger picture stuff, though, Al? I mean, I agree with your opinion because your manager, as a manager, and you've been a manager, is to get the best out of the players, whether that's adapting. But I think where Amorim's sort of fallen down is basically he's saying he's only got one way of playing. So if you're opposition and you come up against Man United, of course, they've not got the right players to play the system. But if they're going to stick in that one system, that means he's not flexible. All the great coaches can change it up from time to time. And I just feel like he's making the same mistakes over and over again. But I understand why he is doing that. So next season, when he gets the players and the players that he wants to keep, they'll be familiar with the system that he wants to play. But right now, it's doing nothing for morale. It's doing nothing for confidence, just getting a result. And what they keep saying, listen to Bruno's interview after the game, and he was talking about, they've had big results at City and Liverpool, but you're not sort of competing with City and Liverpool. It's the other teams that you're competing with. You're better off losing to them teams and beating all the teams around, your level at this moment in time. So I find it quite baffling, but also I understand why he's persisting with that,
Well, their season is Thursday. For them to go forward, obviously to recruitment, financially, everything relies on for them winning the Europa League this season, which will get them into the Champions League. But we know he's got a huge job on his hand. It's going to take a long time and a lot of money to fix that football club.
Yeah, they seem to be. I mean, he's obviously pretty stubborn in the way he wants to play, and it'll be interesting to see whether it can work in the Europa League. Obviously, they've got a bit of a tough test ahead of them on Thursday. And what will they do if they go out? That's the question, isn't it? Really?
Well, that is. They've got.
Do they stick with him or not?
Yeah, well, they're going to have to stick with him. They can't. I mean, they've made the decision. He's the manager. They're going to have to give him 2 or 3 transfer windows, and also crucially, they're going to have to load him with a load of money to go and spend because they're in desperate need of a centre forward. They're in desperate need of a goalkeeper. And in desperate need of legs in midfield. I mean, we go through the whole team. It needs fixing. It's a huge job, so they have to stick with him. But I do think sometimes and look at him, and he is asking players to do something they can't do, and they're really struggling in the system that he wants them to play. Clearly, they're not very good at doing that.
What did we make of the Onana decision and the way he spoke about it? And
well, he's got a huge decision to make on Thursday, and I would suspect if Bayern had played well today, then he would have been in on Thursday. But he didn't. He was at fault, wasn't he, for at least one of the goals? So that is a huge call for Amorim to make on Thursday because he doesn't have confidence in either of his goalkeepers.
Have you seen how well De Gea's doing as well?
I know, yes. It's incredible.
Where's he at? Fiorentina. Yes, of course.
Yeah, doing really well.
But I've got one question to ask you, Gary. You played at Barcelona, which is a huge club, and the demands of that club, I speak to Thierry about it all the time. What is it like when you play for a club which has got such high demands? And that's no disrespect to Newcastle, but I'm talking about an era when they're going for the league. So Man United have been so successful. It was a little bit different for me at the time at City. I come through where we was in the league and then built up to the FA Cup and then the Premier League. So the pressure was less for me. But Barcelona was, apart from Real Madrid, expected to win the league, wasn't you? So
it's huge. It's huge. It's huge pressure. It's a bit of a madhouse, Barcelona, in many ways. The way it's run and everything, the expectation levels. It's an incredible club, enormous. And in terms of your private life, they leave you alone, unlike they did here when I played. But the demands of the press. They had 2 newspapers, right? Daily newspapers, just about the football club. El Mundo Deportivo and Esport. And those 2 papers covered pretty much the first 40 pages every single day were about Barcelona. So you can imagine I mean, you get nothing like that here. The expectation is incredible, and you need to do well. And I remember I went with Mark Hughes at the time, and I got off to a good start. And Mark struggled, but Mark was a lot younger than me. I was sort of 25. Mark was only 21, I think. And he didn't get off to a good start, and the crowd got on his back, and he found it really difficult to deal with. So it is hard, and the same applies to the coaches, and it's but also it's wonderful when it's going well, and the adoration and stuff like that ensues if you're banging in the goals is something really special. But there is a difference, and I suppose Manchester United has that that.
Exactly, and that's exactly why I asked. So do you think that the players are struggling from that, dealing with not just the football side, but the outside noise as well? Because what happens after each game, good, bad, indifferent, the wheel, Bruno Fernandes out, he speaks really well, he talks sense, and you're like, okay, but he's their best player. But all the other players, I don't want to say that they're hiding, but it seems to me like they can't deal with the pressures that come with being a Man United player.
He's taken on a huge job, and clearly he knows that they're nowhere near good enough. And it's not his fault that the recruitment has been so poor as Amorim. So but he has taken it on. He does have to deal with that, and he does have to make the club better in every aspect that he can. But it's an incredible tough job he's got on everything. Their season is Thursday night. I mean, you can imagine the response, not only from pundits alike, but the media and everyone, their fans. If they were to get knocked out on Thursday night, then it really has been a disastrous season. They have to win.
If you want to be a top player, you have to deal with the mental pressures.
Yeah, but they're lacking in those top players. That's why the position they're in, Gary.
That was the point I was about to make, Alan. It's about recruitment. You've got to find the right players to get in the right slots. And he's not bought any players yet, so his time will come. So we'll judge him at that. Let's just one more game, and then we'll let you go, Alan, because I know you want a pint of Guinness with Steve.
It's waiting.
Alongside you. It's waiting. So Liverpool did what they had to do, but it was a bit of a struggle in the second half. But I mean, the title is almost there with him.
Yeah, it's not for I think, Gary, for Liverpool now, it's not about performance. It's just about getting results. They need 2 more wins and they'll get over the line, and they've been the best team by a mile. I think for the neutral, well, no one's put up a big enough fight at all. They deserve to win it, but it's not about performance. It's just getting those 6 points, what they need, and they'll lift that title, which, just a matter of time. Yeah,
a word on Mo Salah. Obviously, he signed his contract. It's the first chance we've had to speak since then. Yeah. And he's got his assist. He's now, I think, got the record for the most goals and assists in a Premier League season.
He was interested in assists.
Well, not me, but
you're a pundit. You're a pundit, mate. You say it every week on BBC. So yes, of course we are.
I can't tell you how many assists I got
because you didn't pass the fucking ball.
But it's good to see that he's signed for Liverpool, especially for Liverpool. Of course, the fans will be delighted. They gave him a great reception today, and deservedly so. I suspect, given the way Virgil van Dijk spoke after the game, he said, "Let's see what happens over the next week." I think he might be following suit, which would be a real plus for the football club going ahead, won't it?
Yeah, they've been 2 standouts for Liverpool. So to get both of those secured in a week or two is great news for him, and I guess for all the fans, because with the captain and with their main goal scorer, obviously with recruitments that they'll get in the summer, then they'll be a bigger and they'll be a better force to try and go one better next season to try and win it again. But then also to progress further in Europe, and those 2 are already going to help that.
I've heard a lot of pundits be really critical of Liverpool, saying, why did they leave it so long before they renewed their contracts? What Liverpool that's been really... And I'm thinking, hang on a minute. It's not just about the football club. It comes from the players. Now, if I was in charge of a player now, if I was an agent of a player now, I would say, see it right near the end. And then it gives you a much better negotiating position. So it's actually not just Liverpool. If the player's going, well, no, I'm not going to sign, I might want to leave at the end of the season. So it's a two-way thing.
But it helps, though. look at Salah's season. He's got his best numbers in the Premier League season this year. And they're going to win the Premier League, and Van Dijk as well. So as for timing, I agree with you guys, but the timing was superb for them, wasn't it?
Yeah, puts themselves in a better negotiating position as well as an individual, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah. I'm sure they'll tie up the Premier League in just a few weeks. Maybe not even that long. Yeah. Alan, thanks for jumping into the car.
Can we get Steve on before you go, please? We might get some bad insight from Alan. Hey, Steve Bauer! What happens, mate? We know I came and did PLP all those years ago, and now you've just got your mate Alan. Alan this, Alan that.
I've just got a song for you. Beatles, 8 days a week.
I just won the big hitters on PLP.
I can only get knocked back so many times, Micah. You know that.
Have a good night, boys. Thank you.
Enjoy the Guinness, lads.
Have one of those.
Thank you.
Have a good
Cheers.
one. Okay.
Bye.
Cheers, lads. Okay, we'll take a break, and when we come back, Micah and myself will talk about the rest of the weekend's football. Squarespace has all the tools you need, including built-in appointment scheduling, email marketing tools, invoicing, and online payments all in one place.
It's like having a playmaker orchestrating every move, ensuring your operations flow seamlessly from kickoff to final whistle.
Head to squarespace.com for a free trial and use offer code FOOTBALL to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Welcome back to The Rest is Football with, just Micah Richards and me, Gary Lineker now. Alan's gone off probably celebrating. He'll be long into the sunset, enjoying another victory. He's a different person when Newcastle does well, isn't he?
Honestly, it's interesting to see his character because, working with you guys is always a pleasure. But Alan's mood swings... It's remarkable. He could be up and down. It's the same with golf. It's the same with football. It's the same with any sport. But when Newcastle win, you get the best version of Alan, don't you?
Well, sometimes the worst. Anyway, we'll soldier on without him. Wolves against Spurs today. Obviously, it wasn't televised live. Seen the highlight and the goals. Strange array of goals, weren't they, Micah?
Yeah, I mean, we've sort of defended Spurs a lot this season, and that's because they've had a lot of injuries. But in recent weeks, the only really excuse they've got is that they're in Europe as well, and they seem to be favouring that a little bit more. But these performances are just not good enough. I bought into what Ange was doing. I think he's a very good manager. I believe he's let the media get the best of him, or the better of him, should I say. I think he's so experienced. Yes, maybe not in the Premier League, but it's almost, some of the things that he's saying now is almost doubting himself when he doesn't need to doubt himself because he's a good manager. He just needs to get it right. And I think when you have bad result after bad result after bad result, you just got to take your medicine. And I feel like there's a story every single week with Ange biting back to the media that's making it a bigger thing than it needs to be. And sometimes you just got to, take it, haven't you? And at the moment, it's seeping onto the pitch. And it's not just Ange at this moment. The players need to do better. How many times have we said Spurs players, they've got Johnson and they've got Solanke and Romero's back and Van der Ven's going to be back and Undoggy's back. But they're not performing at the level required for Spurs Football Club. And everyone can talk about it's Spurs, it's this, that and the other. But them players are way better than they're showing now. And they need to do a lot better because it's looking bleak. It's looking bleak for the future of Ange. For the club, and it's sad to see because I genuinely believe he's a very good manager. He's just going through a really bad time at this moment in time.
Yeah, I've obviously stuck up for the football because I enjoy watching Spurs play, but it's almost like it's got a bit too much for him. the way things have gone. Obviously, it's not easy dealing with defeat after defeat or struggling performances, but I think, and I echo your sentiments in terms of the press conferences, sometimes, saying things like the footballing gods are against us, and even if you do get a bit of bad luck, and constantly, the world's against us, whining a little bit. And I think it's probably his first time he's really had a awful patch as a coach, as a manager. Everywhere else he's been, but obviously the Premier League's, it's a sterner test than he's had before. I think that's fair to say. But there is still a possibility that he could end up winning a trophy and qualify for the Champions League. But I think it's a long shot now, because they do seem to be, and you know what it's like, Micah, when you're in a side that's struggling and results are not going, you're bereft of confidence and you need a little bit of something. But his body language at present almost suggests that he's downbeat. And I think that's not what you need as a player. You need your manager to lift you up when things are not going that well. And it's a shame. It's tough for Tottenham, but hopefully they can do something in Europe. And I'm sure he had his one eye on that this week, because that will be possibly his salvation this season. But we should also mention Wolves, because they've done something that they've never done in Premier League history, and that's win 4 games on the bounce. And Vito Pereira's come in and he's done a really excellent job. We always said, didn't we, Micah, that we thought that Wolves had enough, that their players were better than they kind of showed in the early stages of the season. I think they're a little bit unfortunate because they had so many difficult fixtures right at the start, and that can affect your confidence. But they've bounced back really well. They've got a lot of talent out there, and I'm not surprised at all that although winning 4 on the bounce is quite an achievement.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think what's been good about Wolves now is, when we've been on Match of the Day and you've asked, have Wolves got enough to get out of this? I always said yes, but my basically answer was that was because of Cunha. And what they've done now is been without Cunha. Yes, he comes on today and he gets his goal, but Strand Larsen's been excellent. João Gomez in midfield, Andre in midfield, Ait-Nouri, who's a player who I've always admired. I think with his position, I don't quite know if he's a left back, a left wing back, or a left winger, but what he's got, he's got skill. He can finish.
He looks like a real wing back, doesn't he, actually?
Yes.
Yeah,
but he's played in a variety of different positions. He's even played in a back three, but he's so composed on the ball. And I just thought there's no way that many good players can go down if they manage to get over that slump. And it's all about confidence there. It's morale in the dressing room. And they've got internationals in that squad. I think another player as well, Munetsi, who sort of plays in midfield. So when I was reading stats about Munetsi a couple of weeks ago when we was doing Match of the Day, all his stats say he's a defensive midfielder, but the way Wolves play him he was playing sort of false 9 and then a number 8 position where he really gets into the box as well. So it's little tactical tweaks like that the management's been able to do to get him playing football, and they deserve all the credit. But I think the bigger picture for Wolves now, what can they go and do next season? I've seen Cunha's celebration when he scored his goal. Basically, there was sort of some talk in the media about his contract, is he staying, is he going, and he's following his dream and not other people's dreams. But it was nice to see him back scoring, because he is the real quality that they have.
Yeah, he's got a lot of talent. Let's move on to, Manchester City, Mike. I mean, it looked bleak for a while. They went 2 down against Palace at home, who've been on a terrific run of form. But that was that's the closest I've seen this season, I think, genuinely, to the Manchester City of old. Still, it's not quite the same. They were still a little bit open at times. But in terms of the energy and the press, I think it's the first time this season that I think you can say that is the Pep team that we've seen in the past. What do you think? Same
in the second half? I would
second
definitely
half,
agree.
particularly.
I think Alan Shearer's analysis, now he's gone, we can give him a little bit of praise. It was brilliant. First half, it was too easy. It's almost like the sort of, I don't like that word, playing within themselves, but it was a nice day. Kevin De Bruyne was playing, Gundogan was playing, Kovacic playing, a couple of older pros. Let's get on the ball. Mamouche, let's get him over. But they forgot the very thing that got them to where they are or have been in the past, winning 4 leagues in a row. It's that press. And that press was back in the second half. I think a lot of that coincided with some of the younger players as well, because I didn't give him a shout out yesterday because it's all about Kevin De Bruyne, and I'm sure we'll, you utilise him about him a little bit later on. But I thought McAtee was really good. We've seen him at Sheffield United, and it's sort of, can he make that step up when you're playing with good players? Can you shine? And the work rate that he put on, he led the press in that second half, obviously got his goal. O'Reilly gets his first Premier League goal as well. Rico Lewis played a lot better because I feel like Rico Lewis has been...
What do you think his position is, Mike?
Well, that is a great question.
It's often a problem, isn't it, with what you end up being a utility player and you fit in different... It's that, what is it, jack of all trades, master of none. And I've seen that with a lot of players that they're actually really valuable because they can come in at a certain time and play, but it's not necessarily best for them if you've not got a set position. And he's still very young, of course, but I wonder what his position is, his best position.
I think going forward, probably maybe a right back or maybe a holding midfielder. I think what's so good about Rico Lewis is tactically he's aware, but the problem is he doesn't really score goals. He doesn't get assists. He's not really aggressive in a tackle for a right back. So you're not getting to see any attributes. He gets the ball, then he goes inside, makes numbers, but it's only if you've got a football brain, you'd see the good work that he does. And that's no disrespect to anyone who's watching the game, but we're in a society now where everything's about numbers. I think it's just hindered him a little bit in showing exactly what he can do. And I think he needs to pick a position, because when Pep leaves, and if it's a year, 2, 3 or whatever, the new manager's going to be coming in thinking, what can you give us? And at the moment, he's just in between, so you can't really see his quality.
Yeah, Marmoush got another goal. I think since he joined, only Salah's scored more. I think it looks a positive signing for City. I know they paid a few bob for him and he was already scoring goals and he's still finding his feet, but I see a player in there.
Definitely.
I think he's really talented. He's got a good energy, which is something that City lacked in the first half of the season. And he's clearly got, technical abilities, and, he can score all sorts of different kinds of goals. And he's got a hunger that I think has been invaluable probably for City over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I think with Mamouche, so when he was at Frankfurt, he was the key man. So he would do pretty much everything. He would link up, like you said, he would score goals, he would make assists. But in the system at Man City, he sort of played 2 up front at times, when City played 4-4-2. But yesterday, Kevin De Bruyne was playing the false 9. He was sort of playing out to the left. McAtee was playing on the right. But I want him a bit closer to goal. Yeah. I think
I'll ask you the same question I asked about Rico Lewis. What do you think is his best position?
Well,
is more of a 10 or a 9? Is he a false 9? Is he a wide man? Is he?
He's so good at so many different things. Again, with the comparison with Lewis, because he can score. I think his best attribute is, the old school striker when they used to come deep, knock it off, then running behind, or he can start wide and make runs inside as well. I think that's where he'll be the most dangerous, because we're thinking, okay, he's playing with Haaland. When Haaland's fit, I would probably play him a left of a 3, but like a Salah, but on the other side. coming onto his right foot, I think that's where he could cause the most danger for Man City. Yeah. But sometimes I'd like to see more involved in the game. They've got so many players who want to play in that false 9 at number 10 position, but not everyone can play there when you've got the likes of Foden and Grealish that can play there. Yeah. I think going forward, playing off the left for Man City, he would get probably the best numbers running in behind.
What do you think City will... Obviously, they'll be looking more towards next season now. And, well, obviously, Champions League will be massively important that they qualify. And it's a bonus that 5 teams will get in. It's actually... Did you know it's quite possible that... Well, it's not very likely, but it is possible that the Premier League could have 7 teams in the Champions League. That would mean if... either Manchester United or Tottenham won the Europa League, one of those would go into the Champions League. That would be 6. And then say Villa didn't get in the top 5, but won the Champions League, which is going to be tough, there would be 7. And we'd end up with about 10, 11 teams in European football, which would be extraordinary. I'm not sure that's necessary. It'd be good for the Premier League, but I'm not sure it's necessarily good for the competition. And it's obviously it's pretty unlikely. But there's definitely a chance that Tottenham or Manchester United could win the Europa League, but they really need to buck up their ideas a bit to do that.
Yeah, I can't. You know what? I can't. It's one of those. I made a massive error a couple of years ago. I was writing my column. And I basically was saying about Tuchel, I was basically saying, I don't think he'd win the Premier League. He could win like an FA Cup or a League Cup or maybe even the Champions League. The headline, Tuchel won't win anything and they're going to win the Champions League against Manchester City. I was crying that day. So in knockout football, anything is possible. Yeah. But like you said, they're going to have to book up their ideas, both of them, because if he was a betting man, you won't be betting on any of them.
No. Can I ask you what you said that? Why do you think Tuchel couldn't win a league title? Why?
No, I only said that because of the depth of the squad. So,
you were talking about with the team at his time.
Yes, the team that he had at the time
that he didn't
compared to what Man City had. Man City were absolutely flying. Sorry, I should have said that. I just meant the squad for the longevity of the season.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, understood. Let's move on to Nottingham Forest, Everton. Nottingham Forest are just getting a little bit, I don't know whether it's nervy or they're just... it was a brilliant performance, I thought, from Everton. I think they deserved their victory. They played really, particularly the second half. They were very much on top. And Decore scored at the end, and he's obviously wants his new contract, and he's doing his celebration, which I quite enjoyed. And then he mentioned it afterwards, and so you know what I loved about that celebration, guys.
Yeah, is the fact that you act all cocky, don't you? When you scored a goal, where's the contract? As soon as someone puts a camera in their face, he basically said, my future, I want to stay. I'm like, where's the cockiness gone now? You've just given it all that. He should have come in and said, I've played really well this season. I know I've had my injuries, but I am vital to this squad. I think it's time. We're basically safe because Moyes come out and said he doesn't want to sort contract till they're basically mathematically safe, were his actual words interview I heard just before the game.
Surely they're about mathematically safe by now, I would have thought.
Exactly. So I would have come out and said, come on, what more do I have to do to show you that, I'm a vital part of this team?
He is actually, he's Decore's got a real energy and enthusiasm, and he does get vital goals.
You know what it is he's not a clinical finisher. No. I wouldn't say he's even a clean finisher when he gets in there. But what he does have is endeavour, the timing of his run. Mm-hmm. He gets in all the time. And it's very hard to mark because he could be making a tackle on his own box and then making a 40-yard dash the other way. And he keeps going. I think the best part of his game is his engine. Yes, he's good enough for the ball. He's not a bad passer, but that's his main strength, getting into the box, making them late runs.
Yeah. a word on David Moyes. We've had a few now, but wow, what a turnaround!
Can
I'm
we
really
get him back
pleased for
on?
him.
Can we get him back on? It's all right drinking our wine in a fancy flat in Berlin, you know what I mean? Well, now you're a Premier League manager, now that you're absolutely on fire, we give you the platform when he was down, David. Come back to us. Let us know how it feels.
Well, in his defence, we've not asked him yet. So it's not like he's turned us down. But absolutely. And also, he did come on when we did the live show, the Guinness live show we did, which was great. And it's really pleasing to see. I mean, he had such a... Because you didn't want it to kind of go badly wrong, particularly after the amazing period he had in his previous incumbency at Everton. And you just thought, well, it's, is it the right job to take for him? But I think his heart ruled his head, but he's now showing that, what he's done. I mean, it's such a transformation. And it's not now, you can't just say now it's just a little jump from a manager, when he's come in, because those things only last 2 or 3 games and then it normally works its way out. But this has been a sustained period now. Where he'd be, if the league had started when he took over, they'd have been right near the top.
Yeah, I think if Sean Dyche would have still been in charge, I think they would have stayed up.
Well, the bottom 3 have hardly got any points since he went. So yes,
but I think what the Everton fans were alluding to is they want to dream for more than that. Yeah. And that's what they're getting now. And they brought in the perfect man. And I think that little bit of a rest helped him as well, because a lot of people was calling David Moyes a dinosaur and the way West Ham, and he talked about it himself. But just being with him in Berlin and picking his brains on certain things, tactically, he's a top manager.
Proven, yeah.
But I think the fact that he's managed to show now that they're not just defensive, all his teams are going to be organised. Even from when he was at Preston with my mate Dixon too, he said it was always organised. And then Everton, I think now the next step is like he's been showing is continuously moving them up the pitch and giving them the confidence to do what they need to do, because okay, they don't concede that many goals, but they're scoring way more or creating more chances. Yeah. And I think that is the key. And I think whenever I speak to Everton fans, they say, that's all they asked for. And he's doing that. So I'm delighted for him. He's a great human being as well. And I just hope he can kick on now as well with a new stadium. Yeah. It could be a really good season for him next year.
Yeah, absolutely. What about Forest? They're not going to miss out, are they, on Champions League? They've kind of stuttered a little bit, but, it's tough. What do you think?
No, I when you asked before, do you think there was a bit nervous? I don't think that's the case. And I wasn't suggesting you were saying there was nervous.
I think they're better against teams that have a real go at them, although Everton did in the second half, to be perfectly honest. Alan did say, didn't he? Said they kind of beat them at their own game.
Yeah, I would agree with that to an extent. I just think they missed Elanga.
Yes,
they brought him
came on late
in the second half, didn't he? But they just missed them burst in runs. And a lot of people, if you watch Forest, obviously because we do Match of the Day, we watch pretty much every game. I don't think that they played bad. I think that was just them. They just couldn't capitalise on the chances that they created in that game. So I really want Forest to get to the Champions League. I think it'd be a great story. I love Nuno. Yeah. He's done a great job, but just to see it over the line now.
Yeah. And they're still looking in good shape, but it is really tightening up a little bit. And with Newcastle winning, I think if they win, they one more game in hand, they go into third place. So, but they will be buoyed by the fact that there's now 5 spots in the Champions League. It would be a hell of an achievement for them. No one envisaged that at the start of the season. Interesting game at Southampton. The expected result, I think, because Saints have really been pretty awful this season. 2 missed penalties from Asensio. Producer Harry's he's absolutely devastated because he had him in his fantasy. He's been miserable ever since. You tell me you didn't.
No, I actually didn't. But I had Murillo and I had Milenkovic and I had Sells. So Sells was on 7 points and the rest was on 6 points. You get an extra point for the saves that Sells made. And I'm thinking I'm having an absolute stormer this weekend. And then Corey goes and scores last minute.
No clean sheet points.
No clean sheet. No nothing.
Dear.
And then going into the
I thought
to
you
the
were a
Villa
little
game,
bit quiet when that happened.
Honestly, no word of a lie. So you and Alan was watching the golf.
We were watching a lot of golf as well as the football.
Yes, no,
well, the
yeah.
golf started.
When the football
The golf
was done.
started after the football. To be honest.
He was watching the golf, and as soon as the game's finished, I had to go have a word with myself in the dressing room for 15, 20 minutes. I just didn't want to be around.
Where you went?
I'm thinking to myself, I've got to stop playing this game. It's taking over my emotions.
Yeah, I don't know much about this game, Micah, but if you've got 3 defensive players in one team, that's putting a lot of eggs in one basket, isn't it?
Correct. It was. But I thought that game was going to be 0-0 until the dying minutes.
It nearly was.
It was 0-0. So I think Murillo, just that mistake, the last minute, they're normally so solid. And then that happened. So I was devastated. But Harry, with Asensio missing 2 penalties.
2 missed penalties. That's minus a lot of points, isn't it? Not
No,
good
but he
at all.
actually got an assist for
that's something. So
the
he levelled it
rebound
out.
when McGinn scored.
You get an assist for missing a penalty. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
On fantasy, you do anyway.
Yeah. Well, hey. I think Ramsdale might have been disappointed last night on Match of the Day. Match of the Day didn't mention his. I mean, we showed his penalty saves, but
No, okay. So
go on.
I don't know. I don't normally bring people's names into because I don't think it's right. But I think he's got a point on this particular occasion. But so obviously Villa win 3-0 and he saved 2 pens. But my analysis was basically Emre and Villa substitutions, their squad really can impact the game. So Watkins comes on, scores.
Yeah.
Marlon comes on and scores. And McGinn comes on and scores.
It's the first time in Premier League history that 3 substitutions have scored for the same team.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that is a bigger story. And because Southampton have had a bad time, I don't want to do my analysis and dig out Southampton. That's not what we need to do. They know they've had a bad season. Yeah. It was almost like Villa have won. Let's leave Southampton alone. However, if someone's made 2 pen saves in a game, you probably, or I probably, this is nothing to do with the producers or I probably should have just mentioned it, or Al. Me or Al should have said, you know what, but fair play to Ramsdale. He had 2 penalty saves. It probably didn't need an analysis run, but we should have mentioned it. But that wasn't the bigger picture anyway. So yeah, he texts me. I won't tell you what he texts me on. And let's just say he wasn't happy. Yeah. And he told us to basically liven up.
Well, to be honest, the saves were showed with replays in match edit anyway. So.
Exactly, and that is the the answer.
But well done, Aaron Ramsdale, to save 2 penalties in one game is pretty rare. Arsenal, they rested a few players, as have Real Madrid today. The last time I looked, I don't know what the score is now, but it was goalless and Kylian Mbappe got himself sent off, which apparently doesn't mean he won't miss the Champions League game, Arsenal fans. But it was a terrible challenge and totally out of character, but a strange one. I've seen it on the I think it was one of the social media things. But that aside, it's such a big game for both those clubs in midweek. You can see why they rested them. And, Arteta sort of gave everyone, all his big players, either started and came off or started on the bench and came on.
Yeah, I think the wider the point here is Declan Rice pretty much plays every game.
Yeah.
We got obviously the assists for Partey. But I think Arsenal now going forward, they need to be able to deal with domestic and Europe. And what we're seeing now that they can't deal with both.
Squad's not big enough in terms of...
It's just, they've got really good players. And even if you tweak 2 or 3, but the ones who come in, they're not doing enough to get them over the line. And I compare that to what Aston Villa are doing. You look at who they can bring up. They've got Watkins. Okay, he's not playing well. We'll have Rashford. Okay, if we'll go left side, we'll go Ramsey. Or if that's not working, we can put someone else further forward. We can put Digne as the left winger, or we can go Moreno left back. Then right hand side, you've got Cash who can play in them forward areas. You've got Rodgers. Then you've got Tielemans. Then you've got McGinn. Then you've got Kamara. Then they've just got quality all over. Asensio, who I've not even mentioned. And the difference is them players, when they come in, they're performing. And I'm not saying that Arsenal didn't play well. They just didn't put away the chances in important moments. And against Brentford, you should be able to deal with that,
Yeah, it's the story of their season is in terms of the league anyway, but ultimately they might win their first ever Champions League, which would be amazing. Before we go, Micah, I just want to say a spectacular moment of the season. Leicester City scored not 1 but 2 goals in a game, and I think it was January the last time we scored or got a point. January, and we scored. I'm so thrilled. He says ironically. Honestly, it's so little to get excited about this season, but we got a goal. In fact, we got 2, and I think that's a really positive note to finish. Oh, football can be cruel, can't it? Football can be cruel. But there we go. We'll be back, or I'll be back, actually, with, funnily enough, with an interview, not just with me, but Alistair Campbell from The Rest is Politics, with Hector Bellerin on Wednesday, and really, really intelligent. And it's sort of centered around the green aspect of football and what football needs to do, as well as his career. And it was a really engaging chat. He's a super intelligent young man. So look out for that, and hopefully you'll listen. But for now, goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me. Have a good week.